The rain had started before sunrise, the kind that seeps into your bones and makes the whole city feel heavier than usual. By the time the factory gates came into view, soaked in gray light and surrounded by puddles, the single father already knew something was wrong. His shoes were muddy, his shirt smelled faintly of spilled chai, and his heart was still pounding from what had happened an hour earlier. He had never been late in 3 years, not once. But today the clock didn't care about reasons. And neither did the rules posted in bold red letters above the entrance. Before this story goes any further, if you believe that kindness still matters in a world obsessed with deadlines and profits, take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts. Share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this deserve to be heard. He was a single dad named Ion, quiet man whose life revolved around two things: his 8-year-old daughter, and his job at the company everyone in the city knew simply as chai. It wasn't just a beverage brand. It was an empire. Billboards, delivery trucks, cafes, factories. Chai was everywhere. For Ion, it meant stability, health insurance, school fees, the chance, however fragile, to give his daughter a life that didn't feel like constant survival. Every morning he woke before dawn, cooked a simple breakfast, braided her hair as neatly as his clumsy fingers could manage, and walked her to the neighbor who watched her before school. Then he literally ran to catch the bus to work. That morning, as he hurried through a narrow side street to save time, he heard a sound that cut through the rain like a blade. Go. A soft cry, panicked and breathless. He slowed, looked around, and saw a pregnant woman crouched near a closed tea stall, her hands shaking, her face pale under the streetlight. People passed by. Some glanced. Most didn't stop. Ion checked his watch, felt the familiar anxiety rise, and then pushed it aside. He approached her, offered his arm, and helped her sit more comfortably. She was in pain, scared, and alone. Her phone had slipped into a puddle and died. She said she felt dizzy, that something didn't feel right. Ion did what he could. He flagged down a rickshaw, wrapped his jacket around her shoulders, and stayed with her until they reached a nearby clinic. He paid the small fee from the money he'd set aside for groceries, and waited until a nurse assured him she was stable. Only then did he look at the clock again and feel the weight of reality crash down on him. He was already late, very late. By the time he reached the factory, the rain had stopped, but the damage was done. His supervisor barely looked up as he explained, his words tumbling over each other, his voice still unsteady. Policies were policies. Late meant penalty. Too late meant termination. 3 years of loyalty ended in a single sentence spoken without emotion. Ion walked out with his final paycheck folded in his pocket and a hollow ache in his chest that felt worse than hunger. That evening, didn't know how to explain it to his daughter. He listened to her talk about school while he cooked lentils, nodded at the right moments, smiled when he was supposed to. After she fell asleep, he sat alone in the dark, staring at the wall, calculating how many weeks they could survive. Rent, food, school. The numbers didn't add up. The city outside hummed with life, unaware that one small act of kindness had just cost a man everything. Days passed. Ion searched for work, but chai was the biggest employer in the area, and word traveled fast. Doors closed politely, sometimes with sympathy, sometimes without explanation. He began skipping meals so his daughter wouldn't have to. Still, he never once regretted stopping that morning. The memory of the woman's frightened eyes stayed with him, a quiet reminder that some things mattered more than clocks. What Ion didn't know was that the woman he helped was not just anyone. She was the owner of chai, the unseen force behind the empire, a woman who rarely appeared in public and trusted her executives to run the day-to-day operations. That morning, she had insisted on visiting a small, struggling supplier without an entourage, wanting to understand the ground reality. The rain, the pain, the fear it had all stripped away her identity, leaving her just another vulnerable human being on the street. From her hospital bed later that day, she asked about the man who helped her. All she knew was his name and where he worked. What she discovered shocked her, fired immediately. No investigation, No humanity, just a rule applied without thought. As she recovered, anger slowly replaced disbelief. Not at Ion, but at a system she herself had built and allowed to become so rigid. Meanwhile, Ion's life continued to shrink. He sold his old phone. He borrowed money he hated borrowing. Pride became a luxury he could no longer afford. Yet, every night, when his daughter slept with her school bag packed and her uniform folded, he reminded himself that she was watching, even when she didn't know it. He wanted her to grow up believing that doing the right thing was never wrong, even when it hurt. One afternoon, a black car stopped outside his modest home. Neighbors peeked through curtains. Ion thought it was a mistake, until a woman stepped out, visibly pregnant, supported by an assistant. He recognized her instantly. Time seemed to slow as she approached, her expression calm but intense. She told him she had been looking for him. She told him she owed him more than words. Him that the company he lost his job at belonged to her. The truth unfolded not as a dramatic confrontation, but as a quiet reckoning. She had reviewed his record. Perfect attendance. Hardworking, no complaints. Fired for one late arrival after helping a stranger. She admitted that the fault was not just the supervisor's, but hers for allowing a culture where rules mattered more than people. Standing there, she didn't offer pity. She offered respect. Ion was reinstated, but not in the same way. His position came back with better pay, flexible hours, and a clear policy change across the company. No employee would ever again be punished for choosing humanity. Supervisors were retrained. Systems were rewritten. The story spread quietly at first, then widely, becoming something people whispered about with disbelief and hope. For Ion, the change was deeper than a job. It was the restoration of dignity. His daughter saw the difference in him, the lighter steps, the laughter returning to his voice. One evening, as they shared a simple cup of chai, she asked why people had been so kind to them lately. He smiled and told her that sometimes, when you help someone without expecting anything back, life finds its own way of returning the favor. As this story comes close to its end, take a moment and comment below with just one word: kindness. Let it stand as a reminder that small choices can create waves far beyond what we can see. The owner of Chie never turned Ion into a headline or a publicity stunt. She knew the power of quiet change, but the impact rippled through thousands of lives, employees who felt safer, managers who learned to look twice, and a little girl who grew up knowing her father chose compassion even when it cost him everything. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that humanity still has a place in this world, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and let us know in the comments how it made you feel. Your engagement helps stories like this reach more hearts. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing a person can do is stop, help, and believe that goodness, no matter how costly in the moment, always finds its way back.